Hey there, my name is Maggi Rocha. I'm a certified advanced practice social worker and qualified treatment trainee with Behavioral Health Clinic. Today I'm going to be talking about something that's on everybody's minds these days, life after the pandemic. This video is going to be the first in a three-part series talking specifically about how to kind of reintegrate back into life and society after the pandemic. So today's video specifically is going to be talking about reintegrating back into work. So this could be whether you've been away from the office for almost a full year, if not over a year now, or you've been at work consistently this whole time, but now everybody's kind of flooding back and handling some of those big changes. For many workers out there, the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions can mean going back to an office environment you haven't been in for over a year. For others, it means, I've been considered an essential worker with, these grand expectations and appreciation, and now we're kind of coming back into an environment where you're being expected to perform the exact same way that you did prior to the pandemic, without addressing a lot of the added stress and changes that came with it. So thinking about how the vast majority of people are now in a work environment that may or maybe didn't change with you, what are some ways to help set yourself up for success? There's a saying that goes, expect mistakes if you're expecting perfection. So some of you may be kind of going into work expecting to be able to easily slide back into the same workload and the same environment that you've been in without too much difficulty. However, what some people might not necessarily consider is that you've been working in a different environment with different expectations, rules, guidelines since the beginning of 2020. You might find yourself becoming really easily overloaded with tasks that you seemed to fly through before the pandemic. Or you might discover that your interactions with customers directly have become a lot more constrained and difficult to work with. For some, you might find yourself even feeling especially anxious with leaving the house at all, or for those who may have lost a position, trying to find a new full-time position, especially when you haven't been out that much, can be really scary. It's important during this time frame to be kind to yourself and ease yourself into it as much as possible. Remind yourself that there's a big difference between doing your best and being the best. Take it day by day, do what you can, but don't beat yourself up if it's less than what you were able to do before. In the next couple of months, you'll get ready and used to that change in the routine, so give yourself a bit of a break. Speaking of routines, you may find yourself feeling out of place, a little bit listless with kind of how to utilize your time in the most effective way with your new schedule. You've been living according to a different lifestyle with different aspects of time management for over a year now. It's going to take a little bit of time to kind of get back into a new groove of things. Setting a concrete routine can really help you feel secure and stable in going back to work. Part of that might mean accommodating for a new wake-up time. So that might mean, okay, I have to practice a few days or maybe even a week ahead of time with the new alarm. It's not fun, but having that set in place and practicing with that is going to make you feel a lot better and more prepared to go into work on that first day. Another aspect you may not have considered is the actual getting ready part. A lot of the time and over the past year or so, we haven't really been thinking so much about what we're wearing except maybe top up, because we haven't really had to think about, going into the office, having customers seeing us, and any of those policies and procedures. Take some time to review your company's dress code and make sure that you're following all the rules before you go in on that first day. I promise it'll make you feel a lot better and more secure to know kind of what's going on and what your expectations are going in. Alright, so now you've got the right clothes and the right mindset for going back on that first day. But there's one really key thing that you need to consider before you hit the ground running. Onboarding process. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. You're like, I've worked at my job for a long time. Trust me, I don't need onboarding. Well, if you've had a really strong hand in all of the big changes and staff turnover and things that have been happening since you've been away from the office, then maybe you don't. But for a lot of other people where maybe you've been focused on just the work with your position and staying remote and things like that, you might not necessarily know what you're walking into on that first day, regardless of how long you've been at the work you've been at. So you're going to benefit a lot from taking time to look at some of those older policies and procedures tied to your workplace, And also making sure you're not missing any new changes or new implementations of these policies following the pandemic. Similarly, for a lot of businesses and organizations, there's been a lot of employee turnover, losses, and additions to your work team. So, taking the time to reintroduce yourself to faces that maybe you've only seen online, or fully introducing yourself to new team members who you're meeting for the first time. Lastly, take some time to get back into that etiquette of your workplace and find a new dynamic. People may be not so willing to share lunch with you in the break room or have shared snacks and things like that. You might find that people aren't being as friendly as you would expect them to be, or they're keeping a lot more distance between you than usual. That's kind of normal expectations, knowing how everyone's interactions with people have shifted over the past year. Don't be discouraged. And if you're finding you're having a lot of trouble getting back into a steady work life, despite some of these tips, despite help from other people, don't hesitate to reach out to our team. We've been going through some of these big changes too, and we're here to help.